to show you 5 stretches that have personally helped me with my dancing and will most likely help you too. Let's begin. The first stretch I want to talk about is the lower back arch. This is a fantastic stretch for your lower back and is especially important if you want to master body rolls as a dance move. So you'll just put your arms in front of you, let your hips sink into the ground. Now make sure your arms are straight and locked out, and then allow yourself to relax from the lower spine. When you feel yourself relax into this stretch, you can use your shoulders to push down as well, okay? So instead of letting your shoulders collapse like this, make sure you've always got tension from the shoulders and the scapula, and you're pushing down towards the ground. I hold the back arch for about a minimum of 60 seconds, all the way up to 2 minutes. As I gently progress through the stretch, I make sure I constantly breathe. I'm focusing on relaxing my muscles and not tensing them. And then as I breathe out with each breath, I feel like I'm lowering myself deeper and deeper into the stretch. As this stretch starts to feel more comfortable for you, you can then begin to lift your feet up and aim towards. The second stretch I'm going to show you is the Asian squat. Now this move is basically just sitting down in a squat position whilst allowing your bum to sink all the way to the ground. Now I make sure my arms are inside this hole here, they're in between my legs. I slightly widen my stance just to the outside of my hips, so my heels aren't underneath my hips. Now with this stretch, I allow myself to completely fold forward, and I allow my neck to completely relax, letting itself drop all the way to the ground. Allowing your neck to release all the tension from the very top of your cranium all the way down, feeling all the muscles in your spine relaxing. You also want to do the same thing with your lower back, allowing your lower back to completely release all its tension. I hold the Asian squat for a minimum of 60 seconds, all the way up to about 2 minutes. Throughout that whole stretch, I constantly breathe and I'm focusing on relaxing my muscles all the way from the top of my spine down to my tailbone. Now from here, you can also widen your stance even more, and then you can give yourself a gentle push outwards, allowing your hips to open. At the same time, also allowing. The next stretch I'm going to show you is the Pigeon Pose. I use this stretch to help relax my glutes and also help open up my hips. If you wish to progress to a high level of dance, then having open hips is essential. Use this stretch to help. Get yourself a couple of yoga blocks to help stabilize yourself and help keep your body aligned whilst doing this stretch. Now, the first thing I want to point out is there are different levels of progressions with the Pigeon Pose. The first and easiest progression is to have your leg forward. So you'll have your knee facing directly forward and your calf muscle all the way down to your toes will be angled diagonally all the way towards your opposite hip. Now from here, you want to just use your yoga blocks positioned on either side of your front leg to help make sure that your body isn't twisting outwards towards your foot, but what we want is your body facing forwards. Now you also want to make sure that you feel a nice even balance in your position. You don't want to feel as if you're falling backwards to the right or falling over to the left. You want to feel nice and centered and having your hips facing forward, following your eyesight. Like with most of my stretches that I do, I always like to try and aim for a minute hold at bare minimum. We always want to try and find ourselves in a greater range of motion that we have previously never experienced before. Allow ourselves to relax into a stretch to the point where we encounter a brand new range of motion. As you progress with the pigeon pose, you want to focus on having that front leg not being so folded inwards towards your hip. The next stretch I want to talk about is the pancake. Now this is a really useful one for warming up the inner groin area, and also once again for opening up your hips. With the pancake, you don't want to feel yourself forcing your width. Now the stretch here comes from the hips. So we want to feel as if we are bending at the hips and melting forward to the ground, as opposed to allowing our body to just bend forward and roll forward. I always try to keep a neutral spine as I allow myself to fall forward into this stretch, instead of allowing my shoulders to roll forward. I keep my chest out, my shoulders back, and I keep my vision high. Try holding something in front of you like this. Just a simple action of holding something light, or even just your arms out in front of you, will help allow yourself to maintain integrity with your posture. Fold yourself forward until you feel a stretch right here in the inner part of your thigh and groin area. Make sure that we are bending at the hips and not rolling with the upper back. As you feel yourself relax into the stretch, go deeper and deeper, and always aim to have your chest to the ground first before anything. Try widening the blocks out as well to see if that makes a difference. One technique that I also like to use in my stretching is after about a minute and I can feel myself starting to relax a bit more, I'll either use... Now the last stretch I want to show you is the dancer's lunge. There's a couple of different ways you can do this as well, so I'm going to show you them right now. As opposed to doing a regular lunge, with the dancer's lunge, you want to have your foot that is in front of you positioned in the same area as your chest/shoulder area. So that means I don't have my foot too far forward, and I also don't have my foot too far back. Have that ankle positioned along the same line where your arm would be. Make sure we're not twisting outwards, but we're keeping our body straight, hips facing down and forward, everything in line. Now our knee is to the outside of ourselves, and we place both hands down in front. Now with this back leg, I make sure I keep that nice and straight, and I'm allowing my hips once again to naturally feel like it's dropping towards the ground. Now once you feel comfortable with this stretch, you can then begin to lower yourself down to your elbows. These are just 5 exercises that I personally use on a daily basis. I love them, and I will routinely use these in warm-ups and cool-downs, and I will also use them as part of my full stretching routine. If dancing is something that you've just recently gotten into, then I would recommend that you start off with these 5 exercises, and I think you will find that you will see some dramatic shifts in your flexibility quite quickly.